Many of us face immense challenges in our lives. I want to uncover secrets and principles to building a life filled with purpose, not weighed down by hardship. I'm Kirsty, your host in this journey. Each episode, I'll be talking to different people, sharing their stories and practical steps to help us to design a life that we love. So joining me today, we have got Donna Campisi, and I'm very, very excited to have Donna join us today because Donna has also, like me, had a stroke. So I feel like there's some sort of connection there. So Donna, welcome to the show. It is great to have you join us.
Thanks for having me, Kirsty. Yes, there is a little bit of a connection there, isn't there? So, I'm excited to talk to you, about your journey as well today. So let's make this a conversation, not an interview.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep it casual. So, Donna, doctors told you, they told me many things too, but we told you back in the day when you had your stroke that you'd never walk or talk. And yet we're sitting here having this interview and you're talking quite naturally. Tell us about your journey. Tell us sort of right at the beginning, how old were you when you had your stroke and what triggered it?
I was 7 going on 8 years old. So what triggered it? I actually was sick for a couple of weeks at home. I was home from school. My parents were quite concerned, but it was kind of like flu-like symptoms to start with, diarrhea and things like that. And so I remember going to the doctor and the doctor, said to my mum, take antibiotics or whatever. And then went home. Things weren't improving. I had fevers. And
were you like that for?
It was about a week. And then we went to the doctor again. So probably a couple of weeks because symptoms kind of were gradual, I suppose, because it got to a stage where I was finding it hard to walk on my right foot. There was something underneath and it looked like had I stood on something or, we weren't actually sure. And I was finding it hard to walk. And I remember my mum kind of half carrying me and we were struggling to go into the clinic. And my GP was away. So I was seeing an emergency or whatever you call them, the fill-in doctor. Yeah. And he checked me out and said to my mum, and I remember this, he said, I think Donna has tonsillitis, so let's treat her for that. And I remember my mum thinking, saying that she's not walking very well. She's kind of, and when my mum and I talk about the story now, she said, I just think, it's not about blaming the doctor or anything. It's a thing that's happened. But she said, I think he thought I was an overprotective mother and he didn't know me and what my mum was like. So it was one of those things. So it started out, and that was 1978. And then it happened overnight. And I was actually sleeping in my parents' room on the mattress on the floor. They were keeping a close eye on me. It happened overnight. I woke my parents up with my body shaking, my eyes rolled back. I'd lost all control. I didn't wet the bed and lost speech. And of course that shocked my parents and went to the local hospital. The doctors and, they were doing all sorts of tests on me, blood tests. And the local hospital, I came from a country town in Victoria. And I suppose back then they just weren't sure, I should say. And they actually said to my parents, we need to rush Donna to the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne. So for those who don't know Melbourne, it's a capital city in Victoria. And it's a great hospital, the Royal Children's Hospital. So I was flown by air ambulance with my mum, and my dad and my brother raced in their car, and that was 500 kilometres away.
Wow.
So when I got there was a whole medical team on me. They actually nicknamed me the mystery girl because they just thought, what's happened? What is wrong? And it turned out that thing on the bottom of my foot was a vein that burst in my foot, and they did all sorts of tests and found out that I had meningitis, staph septicemia. So meningitis, for those who don't know, is an inflammation of the brain membranes that protect your spinal cord, and staph septicemia is a poisoning in my blood. I had a hole in my heart, a heart murmur.
Did you know that before?
No, this was all diagnosed in the hospital then.
So
So
you had no symptoms, like no reason to believe that you had a hole in your heart or any reason to believe that something major was going on before then?
no, just what I told you about the couple of weeks at home, staying home from school, and it wasn't like I want to get out of school kind of sick. It was right. I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, you don't think that.
No, and you could see it. And like I said, it was the whole, like the symptoms coming up, but really my parents, no one knew that was going to be that. And so it was a massive shock. And back then, for someone at that age, 7 years old, having a stroke was an unusual situation. But it wasn't just the stroke. I mean, I had damage to the left side of my brain, and it did affect the right side of my body, which is the stroke factor. But all of these other things as well. I had spleno, I can never pronounce it. It's when your spleen is swollen. So I think I've listed everything in that moment. Yeah. So I always say, when it's hard to explain to everyone, and I don't want to go into the long story of it, I've had a stroke and other serious complications came about at the same time. People ask me what came first. I don't know. It's something. And they sort of asked, did doctors ever know how it happened or why it happened to you? And I don't think doctors can answer that. And I never got the answer. And it's too late. No, what's the point?
Yeah. So there was no no trigger point or any specific thing that they can pin it to.
No. I mean, it's the same for you. Can they specifically say?
For me, they actually can. So I had an AVM, which is an arterial venous malformation, which means that the blood vessels in my brain didn't form correctly after I was born, or before I was born, I suppose. So what that does is that can cause quite a bit of pressure to build up. And so for me, it was an instant thing, like it happened in an instant. Literally, I was overnight as well. But I woke up in the night and I experienced this happening. For me, it was for that, so the blood pressure built up and then I had a brain hemorrhage, so it burst. And then there was all sorts of other, I guess what you'd say, complications that went with that. So we can pin it back to that point. Why it happened, we don't know, because a lot of people can go through, well, not a lot of people, but people can go through life with an AVM and never know, like it never ruptures, it never causes any issues. So for me, we knew the reason why it happened, but we never will know what triggered the bleed or the build-up of pressure. I was a gymnast at the time, I'd like to say serious gymnast. It was everything that I wanted to do. And I do remember that I'd hit my head on the bars. I don't know how much earlier, but I've got memories of doing it. And so we would say it's probably about within the week before, like the lead up. So we suspect that just jolted something, which then triggered the blood flow to build, and then it was all go after that. But interesting for you. So no reason, you'll never know why it happened. And how does that make you feel? Does that make you concerned that it could happen again?
To me or to anyone?
To you personally.
Yeah, because I was the everyday active kid. Like someone asked me recently, also tell us about you before. And I was just your normal, enthusiastic kid, enthusiastic like I am now, probably a bit like a kid now. But I actually, no, I don't worry that it will happen again, because I'm not the type of person that likes to focus on, what ifs or whatever. I mean, because I haven't really been told, Donna, avoid this, do that, And I developed epilepsy through this. So I still take medication to this day, and I haven't had a seizure for, I can't even remember, 10 or so years, which is great. So I'm very well controlled. But there was a time where I was living like I'm not a time bomb, but you just never knew when it's going to happen. There's nothing to tell you, okay, Donna, you are going to have a seizure, unless I forgot to take my medication, of course. So growing up as a kid and a teenager with any type of thing where you have to take medication, your body's always growing. You have to change your meds, increase it or whatever, because your body's changing. And so I suppose that was more of the time when I had it, when I was a kid, a teenager, and it was probably just even in my 30s, I think. 2001 or something like that, I think was the last time I had one. So I'm really pleased that I can say that I've been free. And the funny thing is, it's a seizure that just happens on the right side of the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
there's so many different types of seizures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just like strokes as well. So your stroke affected your right side?
Yes.
And so have you got, I know you talked about your foot, have you got full movement back? Have you got numbness? What's going on for you in your body at the moment?
Yeah. I actually feel it. It's probably a little bit more sensitive. Like, for example, when you put your feet into a bathtub, I can probably feel it even more so. It's like, oh, it's a bit hot on my right foot. Whereas I've spoken to other people and they have more of a numbness or loose feeling at times. So I don't have that, which I'm grateful for. I do have foot drop. Do you know what that is?
Where your foot's kind of rolling down?
Yeah, you know, when you walk, normally you land on your heel first and then your toes, whereas I land on my toes first and then my heel on my right side, of course. And that can cause me to trip easily. I kind of laugh about it because I just like go on with. Do you trip a lot too? Oh, good.
Sometimes I'll do like the most epic wipe out. I did it yesterday. Actually, I was in the gym.
Really?
Around, but I fully fell over. My daughter saw me and she just laughed and I laughed. And that's all you can.
I know. I just laugh about it too.
I still fall over my feet.
It's good you can laugh about it. And and people that know me well, they just go, yeah, there's Donna going on a trip again. So it's just, And have you got permanent scars? Because do you fall on the same parts of your body? I've got a knee, my left knee more so.
Oh, really?
It's just like scar on top of scar on top of scar. And my right hand, you probably can't see it as much, but I just always tend to, because I fall on this. Normally when you fall, you protect yourself and put your hands out. This one doesn't protect me and it just like curls in and it's a hopeless one, that one. I shouldn't say it. But, no. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I have come a long way. My hand was very clenched when I was a kid. The spasticity was very tight.
And so you've just written an amazing book called The Unlikely Marathon Runner or Marathoner.
The Unlikely Marathoner.
So you've just run a marathon. That's fantastic. Tell us about that.
Well, I've only learnt to run since 2012. Someone asked me a couple of years before that. She said to me, Donna, you can do a lot. And I said, yeah. Being, what are you talking about? And she asked me an interesting question and I thought it was really good. She said, Donna, what can't you do since you've had the stroke? And I'm the type of person that likes to focus on what I can do. So I've never really stopped to answer that question. I knew there was things that were difficult for me. But just to say, what can't I do was a really, good question. And then I finally came up with running. I said to her, I haven't ran since I was 7 years old, and I don't think I could save myself if a car was coming to me.
That's and such a long time.
Yeah, it is. It was 34 years to be exact, if you want to know my age and everything now. But
it's all out now.
No, actually, I don't mind telling my age because I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm the type of person that life's too short and celebrate your age. And, when I sort of hear people complaining about their birthdays or getting older and stuff like that, I just say be grateful. I know people personally that are close to me in my life that didn't make it to their 50s, to the age of 50 in the early 40s. I've lost a couple of people that were very close to me. So, and then even just going through my own experience, I just think, no, I'm glad. I even, you can see more wrinkles in my eyes, whatever.
I totally agree. You start to really appreciate every little thing. And I think eye on the big picture and just realize that life is here, life is for living, and let's go and do this. Let's squeeze the juice out of it. So
getting back to my story, sorry about the marathon. I didn't answer your question. So I decided one night it was just like a seed she planted in my head, running. So one night I decided, and I always used to walk along a beach in Melbourne. I loved, and I just lived close by. And I'm okay with walking. I need a leg brace for my foot drop, so it helps raise my toes. But, excuse me. So I noticed this particular night on the walking track, a lot of runners going by, going past me and, going, I should give this running thing a go. So those voices, I don't know, for people who are listening, I don't think I'm the only crazy person here. Those voices in your head, I call them Mr. Doubt. The voice in my head said, Donna, what if you fall? Because I thought, I should give this running thing a go. And then that voice came in my head and I'm going, what if I do fall? And then the other voice in my head saying, yeah, but you've fallen plenty of times before, Donna, just like you. So I tended to agree with the second voice and thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to give it a go. So I did. And of course it was exciting because, it was the first time and I counted to myself the steps that I would run. And I started with 20 steps and then I gave it a few more goes and I didn't kiss the concrete. I was happy with that. And the last attempt was 30 steps. So I was pretty pleased in that session that I just tried that I was slowly improving anyway from 20 to 30. To the everyday person, that's probably seems lame. But to me, I was really excited because I thought, wow, okay, I made it to 30 steps. I could surely I could, improve on this. I really wanted someone to help me. So that was the start of Run Donna Run. It was, that night where I was walking home so enthusiastic with all these ideas. Who can I get to help me? I want to do something with this, maybe do a fundraiser for the Royal Children's Hospital who saved my life more than once. I ended up back there in my teens with diabetes type 1.
Wow. And that was close. So sorry, you just said that they saved your life? So
I was in a pretty...
Sorry, carry on.
Say that again. No, say that again.
So you had type 1 diabetes and that nearly took your life?
Yeah. I was in a pretty bad way when I turned up in hospital. And now that I know all the symptoms to diabetes, that was weeks before, and the doctor hadn't picked it up that time again. And it's just, I truly believe doctors aren't gods. They can't pick up everything and anything. It's just one of those things. So when I ended up in hospital, I happened to be in Melbourne because I told you I was from a country town. It's called Mildura for anyone that's listening that may know it. Yeah. And I happened to be in Melbourne and just, having all these severe symptoms and ended up, my parents ended up just racing me to the Royal Children's Hospital again. And because, I was in a severe state where I was so thin. My sister actually thought that I had an anorexia because I was getting so thin, like skin and bone. I just didn't want to eat, but all I wanted to do was drink. And then these are the symptoms of diabetes. And then just going to the toilet all the time. It was just going straight through me and just getting really tired easily. And I was a 14-year-old kid that should be, active and that sort of thing. But I was just really always just feeling tired as well. And just sitting at the table going, I don't want to eat. I think that's why my sister thought, is this anorexia?
What's going on
because
here?
I just lost my appetite and, all enthusiasm. So I ended up in a pretty bad way then. So back to the story of my walk home from my attempt at running. And I thought, maybe I could do a fundraiser. Maybe I could learn to run again. I wonder if I could run 4Ks. I'll see if I can do it and get some help. So, of course, I wanted some help to learn to run again, and especially with my situation where I had this stroke and I knew it was going to be not an easy journey or a task. So I thought I want to get someone that, knows what they're doing to help. So I ended up getting in contact with these two guys, Chris and Sean from Brewster's Running. I'll give them a bit of a plug, brewstersrunning.com.
Yeah, nice.
And they're gorgeous guys that I actually met Chris at a business seminar, funnily enough, and we got chatting and he told me what he did, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, and just kept him in the back of my mind, not that I was going to run that day. And then I remembered and contacted them, and they were really enthusiastic to help. And and I got on the phone with Sean, and I told him my story, just what I'm telling you, in a brief conversation, just told him about the stroke, how I'd really like to support the Royal Children's Hospital and give back, how I'd love to inspire other people. And I knew I wanted to write a book back then. And he said to me, and I asked him, I said, do you think it's possible for me, just telling him, because he hadn't even seen me, but I said to him, do you think it's possible for me to learn to run again? And he said, yeah, sure. I can help you, because, he was a musculoskeletal therapist as well as a running coach. So he knew the body well. And he was very confident, which I liked, his confidence and enthusiasm. But I was kind of thinking at the same time, you haven't even seen me walk.
Yeah.
But he said to me, Donna, if you want to create an impact and inspire other people and raise funds for the Royal Children's Hospital, you should run the Melbourne Marathon in October the following year. And I thought he was nuts. I was on the phone thinking, this guy's crazy. I don't know if I said it out loud, but I was just thinking, a marathon. I just thought, what do you think? I'm Superwoman? Maybe you're Superman, but me, I could only run 30 steps. And they were wobbly steps. But he said these words that I really want to share with you and people who are listening that I held on to and still do. And this goes for any goal. It's not just the marathon, but I'd heard this before. And he said, Donna, anyone can run a marathon. It's all to do with your mindset. And I just sat, I think my mind was like tick, tick, tick when he was saying that, just pausing, going, I've heard this before. But then at the same time, I thought to myself, this is a friggin' marathon though. But it's with any, I now coach people and train people with, their big, scary goals. And I've seen it. I truly believe it with my own life, not just the marathon. It is to do with your mindset. It's achievable when you can just believe yourself that you can do it. And whether that's so my message that I wanted to spread with people is a message that I learned a very long time ago from my physiotherapist when I was 8 years old, was there's no such thing as can't. And those words mean a lot to me throughout my life. And people could argue with that. Of course, there's situations where, I know people that have lost limbs and all of that sort of thing, and they could easily say, oh, my goodness, I can't possibly run. But there's ways that they could do a marathon, whether it's, on those, they're like bikes, but they lie back. Do you know what I mean? And they cycle with their arms. Or there's people that get the fake legs that you can run with, and that sort of thing. There's a way. So I always say to people about using their language differently. Like I could ask you, Kirsty, can you run? And you would say either yes or no, or you would say maybe, or it's a simple answer, yeah?
Yeah.
Anything that you ask, it's either yes or no. But when you change the question and say, how could I run a marathon? That's when you think outside the box. You actually think, okay, so how could I possibly do that? And I'm sure you've learned along the way with different skills that you've developed, even more so, to push yourself, that you work out ways to do it.
Yeah, I believe so much of it is our mindset and taking a situation and just tweaking it slightly. Like you say, the bike situation, having one of the sit-down bikes rather than running, or there's a way to do something. So tweaking the situation and just finding out the way that you could just adapt it slightly, and then you adapt it slightly again. And I'm very much a big believer of the 1 degree thing. So if we have something and then we go 1 degree off course, over time, the amount of distance you cover by adjusting something 1 degree is enormous. Like you think if you go on a plane and you're 1 degree off course, over hours and hours, that becomes a completely different continent that you're going to. And so I so strongly believe just to find that one thing and stick to it and adapt. So I totally agree with what you're saying. How much do you think that plays a role? You're talking about physical things, so you're looking at running a marathon and you're looking at adapting your situation and learning how to pick up these skills. How much do you think the mindset thing comes into play in other areas of our lives? Do you think it's right across the board that we can use that concept?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that we can design our future?
Yes.
Always?
I think we've always got choices.
Yeah.
See, someone's asked me about destiny. Do you think we have destinies in life? And my answer was, I think we have choices we can make.
Yeah.
And that choice that's the choice that I decided long ago. And you always hear about people talking about their whys when they want to reach a goal, the reasons why. And I can explain to you my whys for the marathon journey, but I even had my whys back then at, 7, 8 years of age. I always say 7, 8 because I turned 8 in hospital. So it's, I had this issue with the book. I said to my editor, what do I write, 7 or 8? And he's going, 7. But I even had back then, and not really understanding what, whys meant with goals because I was only young, but I had my reasons why. I could either feel sorry for myself and stay in a wheelchair and have other people, do things for me. Or I had my reasons why I wanted to keep going. My reasons why was I just wanted to be a kid and play with my brother and sisters and my friends, go back at school. And I also, and another is why is I didn't want to be a hassle to my parents and family. I'm sure I was at times. But it's those reasons, and they're enough to push you if they really mean something to you. My friends and family did mean a lot to me, and me wanting to be as normal as possible, whatever normal is. But back then I always kind of wanted to be like the others and tried, even though I knew there was difficult things and it was obvious things too. I wore a caliper back then, but kids at school didn't really treat me any differently. I was asked recently about that. Like, when you went back to school, how were the other kids? But the other kids knew how bad I was, and it was a small school too, and they were all pretty much all praying for me, and I think they were glad to see me back. And I turned up at school in a wheelchair at first, but gradually, got to walking. And I don't remember having that feeling of, they treated me like crap when I went back to school.
Oh, that's so good though. That's so neat, because at that age, kids, they don't really get it. They don't really understand what it's like for the person involved, and they don't potentially see the whole picture.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that they welcomed you and helped you and that they were concerned for you. That's really nice.
Yeah, it was. So, with your 1 degree thing, I know what you're saying. I call it baby steps. I have a baby step plan. Like, I was from only being able to, over here, only being able to run 30 steps. And then there was the marathon. I always kind of reach up high and say the marathon goal, and just thinking, wow, that looks hard, Yeah. And then it was, so it wasn't easy. But when you break it down into steps, my first step is believing you can. I say that to people all the time with any goal, not just a marathon, but just if you've got a big goal and you find that you're not believing that you can, well, you may as well not even try.
So
you're the first person that has to believe it. Yeah.
What sort of suggestions would you have for somebody who knows that they can have more out of life and they can see that their future can be better, but they're struggling to believe that they have the willpower or the capacity to do it? I come across a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have been through similar experiences. For yourself, rather than going, well, a marathon, that's ridiculous, I can't ever do that, and actually believing that, as opposed to, well, a marathon, that's so out of my scope right now, but maybe one day.
Well, that's what I meant by the baby steps. So my first baby step challenge was a 5.3K fun run. Yeah. So I broke it down. So that was like from November to January, this was something that I was training for. I wasn't like, I had it in the back of my mind about the marathon, of course, because that was a whole journey. And I was on, I'm on social media and in the media and all of that sort of thing. And, oh, Donna's running a marathon. Wow. So it was known and it was in my head still. But in that time, I was just, all I was focusing on from November to January was this 5.3K. So once I achieved that step, so it's a small thing, which I'm sure you do with training people, that gave me confidence and even more belief in myself. So I always talk about that first challenge, as compared to the marathon. It's probably the biggest thing for me because I completed that. And I was like a kid, with my little show bag. They give you event bags after you've ran something at running events. And my medal, I was showing off my medal like I was this kid. Like, it was my first ever medal for something physical like that. Yeah. I was never your kind of, after the stroke, I was never your sort of student that loved PE or anything like that. So this was really big for me as an adult, learning to run again and actually finishing a fun 5.3K fun run. So it gave me the confidence. Is back to your question that you're asking before about what to say to people. If you do one small step, it doesn't have to be to your big scary goal. It's just one step forward, then you get the confidence. And so after that, I said, okay, well, I've done that. All I have to do is double it. And I did 10Ks. That was my next step. Trained really hard again. There was stuff that happened in between, though. It's not all smooth sailing, and it's never going to be. So for people listening and you're going through hard times, you're going to have stuff, going on with, your family, work, maybe. Things happen in between. But I just always say, just allow that and allow how you're going to feel about it, but still try and keep focusing on your next step, what you want to do. So things might delay in time, because I always talk about doing baby steps and doing your small goals and having a date when you're going to do it. So so from my completing my first step to the 10K, there was a lot that happened. There was injuries. I had a personal loss in my family. So I had a lot to deal with, but I allowed myself to have that, that time to heal both emotionally and with the physical injury, but still doing things that I could do to get to it. So not beating myself up, because I think sometimes when it gets all too hard and people go, oh, look, and just talking to themselves. I talk about winning language as well in the book. How do we speak to ourselves? But really getting hard on yourself, like, oh, this is just all too hard. I couldn't possibly do that. I've got to deal with whatever's going on at work. And just forgetting about themselves and where they're going is an easy way just to stop going to your goal. I think that happens a lot, and that's unfortunate. So that's what I really want to help people with and achieve, and I'm doing with my workshops and programs that I've designed for. It's not even about running. I'm doing, actually, at the moment, I've just done a workshop last week, and it's called the 7 Steps to Get Your Dream Business Up and Running. Do you like my pun?
Brilliant.
Using the word running. But,
let's talk about it. So now you're coaching, are you? You've got your own business doing workshops.
I'm coaching. And I'm doing webinars. There's a webinar next week, because there was so many people that wanted to come to the workshop and they said they couldn't. They were either on the other side of Australia or overseas, or with school holidays and just other things. Not everyone can make it to something. So, and it went really well. And I thought, people were saying, you only put this online. And I thought, well, why don't I just do a webinar? So I'm starting that. I've started promoting, and I've got a great response for that to happen on Wednesday evening. What is that? The 18th or something like that?
We'll put that up.
Trying to look in my diary. But anyway, it's going to be something that why I've specifically do that because I call myself an adventure and performance coach. So I do adventure programs. That's another thing. But
Outdoors
performance has
adventure.
been, yeah. I've done programs like people training with me to run, and we did a fun run. We called it Pimp My Run, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
It turned out to PIMP. It's actually an acronym for Power is in Me program, but we just shortened it, and that was fun. And it was actually people from around Australia. Anyone could have done it, but people that already knew me and were following me from my marathon, that most hadn't ran before, and they sort of thought, well, if Donna can run a marathon, surely we can run a 15K run. So we trained for a 15K run, which is called the Run for the Kids in Melbourne. But the great thing about this was everyone was training wherever they were. And some people couldn't make it to Melbourne, so they did their 15K run in Perth, in Queensland and Canberra. So it was really good. It was a joint effort, and people just learning along the way in our private Facebook group. And then I've done another adventure group where I got 10 people to join with me to jump out of an aeroplane. So that was awesome. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Oh, of course. As soon as I landed, I wanted to do it again.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then that was about basically people facing their fears, because there were some people that were there that just didn't think, they were scared of heights, didn't think they'd do it. But when they landed, and them, the look on their face, the big smile, their family were there waiting for them. And it's just awesome to see such a great thing, because I really believe when you face your fears, once you've achieved something that's big and scary, you think, I can do anything.
Yeah, it totally empowers you, doesn't it? I used to chase things that scared me, because the adrenaline shot that you get afterwards, it's just absolutely amazing. But it empowers you to what's next, what's bigger, what can I do? You almost feel a bit invincible. And I think it's a good thing, because it challenges you to pursue new stuff. We get so cozy and comfy in our comfort zone.
Yes.
But facing our fears is fantastic. It's to really push us out there and achieve more, do more. And I always talk about squeezing the juice out of life, and that's it.
I like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So you do your adventure training, and then
then we did also a what do you call it? A virtual race, where I said it's no excuse if not everyone likes to run, so they could run, walk, or cycle in this adventure, and everyone did it from around Australia in there, and we called it Run Your Own Race with RDR being Run Donna Run. But everyone did their own challenge, like, for someone to walk 5Ks, that would be a challenge. There was someone that did a half a marathon. If it was a big challenge to you, there was a group of cyclists that did, 20Ks together. And it was just awesome to see. And they all sent their pictures in, and I sent their medals out. And it was just awesome to see people challenge themselves in that way. But so I have a Facebook page now, a group, I should say. It's called Adventure Beyond Limits, and it's a running, hiking and walking community. So people just join that, and we just kind of share different things that we're doing. They've got goals and that sort of thing happening, or I just even have a walking group. So that's happening in Melbourne each week. But just to get with like-minded people, because sometimes when you do have a physical challenge, and I was like that, I don't have, my personal friends aren't into running. So you can always say, oh, well, no one wants to run with me, so I don't think I'll bother doing it. But if you can find like-minded people that encourage you and that you can even team up with, that's awesome. So that's what that group's about.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so was there ever a time where you felt like you couldn't do it, or that you'd set your goal too high, that you weren't going to make it? Were you worried about not being able to do the marathon?
In the beginning, I really had to shift my mindset, because it was 11 months training, and that's a lot of time for the average person. That's good time. But I just wondered about that, and I just had to put trust in my coaches And they said, because they were runners themselves, they'd done marathons, ultra marathons, they're, supermen. And I really had to put trust in them. And they said, yes, this will be doable. Because I did have my doubts at first and concerns. And, and I mentioned this in my book, one of the things that I did question Sean about is this going to make me go backward? I've put a lot of work in this body.
Yeah.
And you would understand that.
Yeah.
And my concern was, and this was probably an exaggerated question, but I sort of said, I don't want to end up in a wheelchair again. I've put lots of work in this body. Not that a marathon's going to end up in a wheelchair, but I know it was a bit over the top. But just to give him an idea of that concern, and he said to me, look, anyone that runs a marathon, you're going to go through pain.
Yeah.
You do, anyone does. But he said that's not long lasting. And he said, I believe that you can do it, and I'm here to support you all the way. And they both were, and they were, just really good motivators as well for those times where I probably did have some low times. Well, I'll admit, not probably, I did, especially when I lost my brother from cancer. He passed away while I was training. So that was really hard. And that's what I was talking about before, about crap's going to happen. Sorry, I used the word crap, but that's what it was. Like,
that's awful.
Not just injuries, but that was really hard. And people did ask me at the time, like after the funeral, they said, Donna, are you still going to do the marathon in October? And I just said, definitely. Straight away, I didn't have a second thought about it. And I said, yes, my brother would want me to keep going. He believed in what I was doing. He was such a big, supporter of me, the marathon journey, but personally as well. He'd seen a lot of what I'd been through, and he was always super encouraging. And I miss him every day. But I didn't want to stop, and I know he wouldn't want me to either. He would want me to keep going. So when I talk about reasons why and to motivate with goals, as you asked before, how to keep motivated, that was a big reason why. So it was for my brother, for the Royal Children's Hospital, for people that were following me and cheering me on. So it was for my family too. They'd supported me all my life. I had a lot of reasons why, and I really encourage people to dig deep when they talk about why they're doing something. Just keep thinking why, because there were times where I was struggling, and I'd train, because I trained by myself most of the time. I didn't have my coach there every day.
Hard. It's really hard to keep going when you kind of
yeah. Yeah. And
So,
I remember saying to myself, why are you doing this, when I'd struggle? And then I'd have to think a bit again, why am I doing it? And those reasons came up, and they were pretty important to me.
Yeah. Who were the people of influence in your younger years who maybe shaped the way that you think or shaped that determination? Were you determined before your stroke? It's quite hard because you're still quite young, but
I know. I think
some people, like me, I was born with a very determined personality. I had a lot of drive when I was a kid, a lot of go, and that has helped me enormously in my journey. Were you a bit like that as well, or is it something you've had to learn along the way?
No, I think I was. I'm not sure. I'll give you an example. There was this young girl that many years ago, I was in my 20s, who wanted to meet me because she had a stroke as a child too. And I remember her mum and her coming to meet me at my parents' place, and I happened to be there at the time. And she was asking me all sorts of questions, this little girl. She was so gorgeous. I still know her now. She's in her 20s now. And I remember hearing my mum in the background talking with her mum. And she said something like to her mum, she said, Donna is a very determined girl. You couldn't tell her what to do anyway. So I think it was already there. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because when she said you couldn't tell her what to do anyway, I probably was an impatient person at times when, you go through learning new things. That's why I talk about baby steps now, because we can easily get impatient in wanting to achieve things. I'm the type of person that wants something done yesterday. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was, and getting back to the people that inspired me, was that the question?
Yeah. Who do you think shaped your behaviours and your beliefs that you can do these great things? Was it through your childhood? Was it your family, or?
It was my mum and dad. They're very strong people, but not strong as in, like, they're gentle people as well, very caring and generous to anyone that walks in their door. But to me, they were my reasons to keep going, and they showed such strength all through my life and still do. So I talk about them in the book as well. And that's when anyone asks me that question, because I get asked that a lot, and the first thing, and then they say, what about someone outside your family? And I always just come back to my mom and dad. I don't know if that sounds corny or not, but they just simply are the motivators that I've had.
That totally makes sense to me. I often think about my parents, because I think for them, now that I've got my own daughter and I understand what that connection's like, I think about what it must have been like for them to come in. They initially couldn't wake me up because I was in a coma. What it must have been like for my parents to go through what they went through. Like, we think about us and it's always the person who's going through the situation, they need help and how hard for them. But I think about my parents and I think, wow, they just went through so much. Is that something you think about as well? Are you close to your parents?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm close to them, and I definitely feel that, not that I'm a mother myself, and I'll never know that feeling, but as an adult, I can see it. And even when I tell people at 7 years of age, and they're either friends or people that just I speak to, or after speaking events or whatever, whoever I speak to about it and is a parent and an adult, I can see in the look in their eye that, oh my God, your parents must have, it must have been tough. And I understand that now. And like you say, at the time when you're in the moment, you're just thinking about,
it's all about you.
I want to get better, blah, blah, blah. But if I turn back the time and think about the way they were, I never, and I don't know, they may have had times behind my back of tears and being upset, but they always showed strength to me. And that's probably what kept me going too, that I never saw them, and like I said, I don't know if they did or not, and I never saw them break down about it. And they just were, and I've spoken to them about it, of course, because I've even said, look, you guys are amazing, because Mum was beside me every day in bed for 2 months in the hospital in Melbourne. Whereas Dad had to go back to Mildura, which was a 6-7 hour drive for my brother and 2 other sisters. So, and keep things going there. So for them to be apart even and get through this, that's tough.
It's such a major, and we don't think about it at the time. Yeah, it's a huge deal on the family, stress and pressure. My parents were absolutely incredible. Amazing. So going forward, what are you looking forward to? What's coming up for you? What's your next goal?
I'm training for the Kokoda trek to do that, and I actually want people to come along with me. And the thing is, when I set a goal, I always set a date, and I haven't for this, but I think it'll be next year, and I've got to really get a date sorted, because I think that's really important, as you'd know, when you're setting goals. I'm sure you're the same, Kirsty. And because I even tell people it's important to set a goal date, and even if you have to move it forward, that's fine. So I have to really set a date, but I haven't yet, probably because I know someone else that's interested in coming with me, and we've just got to have discussions. But I really would love to get people, even from my Adventure Beyond Limits program, or I have a Donna Run page as well, Facebook page, to get people on board again and joining with me, because I really love doing adventures and getting other people inspired to do it as well. Like the marathon was all about me, and but the other things happened after, and that we're with groups, and I loved getting everyone involved and other people challenging themselves and surprising themselves sometimes, because sometimes when you achieve something big, you go, wow, I did that. I just thought I would,
It's such a good feeling. So how long
so do you want to come?
I would love to come.
Yeah?
I don't want to say to you that I can't run.
But Kokoda, I'm not even running. It's about walking and hiking.
What is the distance?
95 Ks. And you can do this over, we have to talk more. I'm excited now. You can do this over, it depends who you go with. Like there's 8-9 day treks or even 10 or 12. Yeah. So when you think about that and you break it down, sometimes it can just be 10 Ks a day, which I'm sure you're so achievable. It is achievable. But the only thing with this, and the people that have talked to me that have done it, it's a challenge because it's steep, it's either up or it's either down, and there's things, it's the weather as well, and it's not so, people have always said to me when I started talking about this, Donna, it's hard. And that's the point.
Exactly.
It's a challenge.
Well, you have to let us know, and we're going to put all your links and everything into the interview. But we can update our audience. So if anybody's listening and thinks, hey, I'd love to go and do that with Donna, then we will let you know how you can do it. I'm quite excited. I would like to know more. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, okay. Let's chat more about it later.
Let's do that, So what about personally, outside of being active and doing things like that, what's on the picture for you?
Yeah, I'm really developing more of the life coaching thing. I've been speaking as a keynote speaker for many years, since about 2012, even before the Run Donna Run started, because everyone is inspired by my story, which is great. And I'm never ashamed or embarrassed to share that, because I just think if it helps somebody, that's great. So I'm speaking, but I also want to develop more of the workshops and the webinars, and then I've got an online program coming up as well. So it's all exciting, and it's all happening to help people, because I suppose in the last 6 months or so, I've done a lot of networking, just different people and businesses and people that are starting up in business. And they want to leave something that they're doing, and they have this dream business idea, but get a bit, I don't know, concerned. Can I? Can't I? And I've kind of been doing my research and asking people who are already in business or who are wanting to starting, what's the obstacles that you've had or do have that's challenging you to move forward? Because I even know people who are in business and they're in like stuck zone, and they're not sure where to go. And I've noticed that it's a lot to do with just self-doubt, people not having clarity of what they're doing. They've got this great big picture idea, but just not sure what direction to put it in. And all sorts of things that I thought, that's in my book. I just may as well put that into a workshop and be specific about people starting up in business, or people who already are but having a tough time getting it moving. So that's what I decided to do. And I was so excited and did the workshop last week. And I'm sure there's going to be more workshops coming up, but now doing webinars and doing a 7-week online program of the 7 steps to get your business up and running, and just walking people through this and actually holding their hand, but also giving them tools to actually do this and get moving. Because I think, like we were talking about before, life's too short just to keep dreaming about something. Just do it.
Absolutely. Go and do it. So on a final note, what is your one key message that you want to share with the world?
Oh my goodness.
The one thing that really burns in you.
There's no such thing as can't.
Love it. Absolutely love it. There's no such thing as can't. Donna Campisi, thank you so much for joining us. I have really loved chatting to you. I feel a really great connection with you. So thank you for coming on and sharing those gems. This will be going live very soon, and we wish you all of the best.
Thanks so much. Okay, bye for now.
So if you've enjoyed this episode of the Let's Talk Life Design podcast, I would love your support to help me get these messages and conversations out there. It would mean a whole lot to me if you could either share the podcast with your friends and family, or if you could link to the podcast homepage over at letstalklifedesign.com. There's also a Facebook page which gives a little bit more story and details around the interviews, as they take place, and any positive reviews or subscription on iTunes would also be amazing. I really appreciate you joining me and your support as I talk to amazing guests on our show. My heart is really that I would be a channel for others to get their messages out there, to inspire our listeners to live their best life and to learn how to implement these life design principles. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you soon, where we'll uncover more strategies and steps to designing that life that we love.